Good afternoon. Hi. How you doing? Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Please have a seat. We're all excited about the Packers too, let me tell you. It was, we got to celebrate that victory for about 2 minutes, and then the governor introduced his budget repair bill, and that was quite the buzzkill, let me tell you. Harold, thank you. As Harold said, my name is Jon Erpenbach. I'm a state senator from Wisconsin, and before I get into telling you what happened, why it happened, and why I'm here today, I want to thank the Wisconsin firefighters for everything they did. They were unbelievably phenomenal. You know, the governor exempted them from the rest of the public employees in the state of Wisconsin, and they did not have to do what they did. But without a doubt, without one moment of hesitation, they dove right in, and they were at the Capitol every single day in Madison. And I can't be prouder of the men and women of Wisconsin who are the firefighters. Just unbelievable. What I'm worried about, though, is if, God forbid, I do have a fire at my house someday. In Wisconsin, we're not calling Firefighters Incorporated, which is like a wholly owned subsidiary of Koch brothers Industries. That's what we're trying to avoid. It's serious. In Wisconsin, it's a hostile corporate takeover. That's what it is. And if you don't think so for 1 second, you need to look and see what's going on in the state of Wisconsin. At the beginning of this year, private prison industries have hired lobbyists. The Koch brothers have 5 lobbyists of their own in Madison right now. And it's a lot easier to get rid of a public employee when there's no union at the local level or at the state level in Wisconsin. Now, just because you lay off a snowplow driver doesn't mean it's going to be sunny and 75 year-round. It's still going to snow. That work still needs to be done. So what Governor Walker has done to make it easier for the locally elected officials to balance their budget is to bust public unions. That's what he's done. Then he has cut their aid and he has capped their revenue, so they may not have a choice but to lay off public employees. We're talking about friends that I grew up with in Middleton, Wisconsin, who now work for the city of Middleton. And we're talking about people on the Middleton City Council who all grew up together, who are now going to have to lay off their friends because the governor has cut them off at the knees. And it's not just Wisconsin, it's happening in every single state. And if you're fortunate enough to be in a union right now and have collective bargaining, don't think twice that they're not going to come after you, because they are. They absolutely, positively are. So when I say it's a hostile corporate takeover of Wisconsin, that's exactly what it is. When the governor introduced his budget repair bill on a Friday afternoon, that's the old political thing. If it's bad news, throw it out there on a Friday afternoon. It'll get buried over the weekend when you're up north fishing. I mean, that's kind of the saying in Wisconsin. We had a chance to take a look at it on Monday and Tuesday. They had one committee hearing on this on a Wednesday, and they cut off testimony after 13 hours with hundreds of people who have yet to testify on it because they couldn't take it anymore. Thousands and thousands of people were showing up at the Capitol by that point. Thousands. And believe me, there's a lot of stuff to do in Wisconsin, aside just from going to Madison and protesting. A lot of stuff to do. This is how important that was. It hit the Senate floor on Thursday. So at 8:30 on a Thursday morning, hang on one sec, go ahead. Just take the picture, go. Take the picture. Thank you. Let me tell you the reason why I do that. Knock it off, is because if you don't stop and smile, the picture they're going to run, you're going to be like drooling, one eye is closed, and it's awful. So we caucused on a Thursday morning outside of the Capitol because the Republicans have a procedure, and Democrats do too when they're in the majority, to do a call of the House. That's where they get all of the senators in the Senate, they lock the chamber doors, and we can't leave until the vote's done. So we intentionally caucused outside of the Capitol, and we had about 100 amendments ready to go that day. We were going to drag the debate out. We were going to try and make our points, try and make some changes to this, because it wasn't just collective bargaining that was in this budget repair bill. There was also a total takeover of the Medicaid programs in the state of Wisconsin by one person, and that's Scott Walker. We have programs in the state of Wisconsin called Badger Care. In Minnesota, I'm assuming it's Gopher Care. They sure as hell wouldn't call it Viking Care. Well, would they? Are the Minnesota guys here? That's a bipartisan program put together by Democrat governors and Republican governors. We have something called Senior Care, which helps our senior citizens with the high cost of their prescription drugs. And those are strong bipartisan programs with legislative oversight. As it stands right now, Scott Walker, and only Scott Walker, can rewrite the rules of eligibility, which means it's up to Scott Walker who will be eligible and who will not be eligible. And there's a lot of Medicaid money out there right now, not because people are looking to get on the dole, it's because companies that used to provide benefits to their employees aren't doing it anymore. So we have to. It's the right thing to do, and it's the compassionate thing to do, and it also saves us money if people are insured. So there were a lot of things in this budget. So we were ready to go. And it became very clear that the Republicans were going to limit debate. It became very clear that they were going to do things like call the question, which stops the debate. In Wisconsin, we don't have a filibuster. So we were left with one choice. It's not a choice we took very lightly, and it's nothing we wanted to do. But the Republicans actually forced us to do it. We actually had to leave the state of Wisconsin in order to engage the Republicans and Governor Walker in an actual debate. We had to leave our state. So we came to that decision after about 45 minutes of discussion. I ran back home, grabbed a duffel bag. I'm pretty certain I grabbed the clean clothes that I hadn't folded yet. We all do. Dirty, clean, but we're guys, we don't really fold the clothes. I use my dryer basically as a drawer, to tell you the truth. But, so we all met at the clock tower in Rockford, and those of you from Illinois know exactly what I'm talking about. Rockford is about halfway, a little more than halfway between Madison and Chicago. It's one of those places when you say we'll meet you at the clock tower, everybody knows where to go. You just meet there, you don't actually stay there. So we met there, and then apparently some reporters started showing up, so we all kind of scattered. Some guys went to Freeport, Illinois, which is to the west. I went to Chicago because, believe it or not, it's a lot easier to hide in Chicago. So that's what I did. And then got home 3 weeks later. Didn't think it was going to take that long. I remember telling my kids, they said, how long are you going to be gone? I said, I'll probably be home later tonight. Because I'm thinking they saw what we did and they couldn't move forward unless we came back and let them move forward. But as the days rolled on, it became very, very clear what their agenda was. Once the public employees agreed almost immediately to every single financial concession that Governor Walker asked for in order to balance his budget, every single one of them, they wouldn't take out the collective bargaining language. See, the actual language doesn't have a fiscal effect on our budgets. The right to collectively bargain. Some people don't think it's a right. In the law, as it stands in Wisconsin, it says every person has the right to collectively bargain their jobs. That's what the law says. So it became very, very clear to us early on that this was not about the money. It was never about the money. This was about busting public unions in the birthplace of public unions. Public unions started in Wisconsin. And Governor Walker had a national agenda because if you look at every single poll in the state of Wisconsin, every single one of them, it doesn't matter if it's a left poll, a middle poll, or a conservative right poll, 60 to 70% of the people support collective bargaining rights in Wisconsin. 60 to 70. In the most conservative poll, it was 67%. In the most left poll, it was up above 76%. So it's something that, despite what we might think about unions individually, we support the right. But more importantly, what was going on in Wisconsin was this a national agenda that was being promoted by a couple of people who have nothing to do but with Wisconsin, except they see dollar signs. That's what they see. That was documented in this makes me proud to say this, a phone conversation our governor had with somebody he thought was David Koch. I can't believe a governor, first of all, would be duped into that, but he was. Secondly, it was discovered in the phone conversation. I can't believe a governor who was elected to lead a state would think about planting agitators in a peaceful protest to cause a ruckus. That's what our governor was occupying his time with. I can't believe a governor would try and trick us back into the state of Wisconsin when it's quite clear we're not as stupid as he was when he took this phone call. And that's what it was. It was stupid. It was embarrassing. It was unbelievable. So as time went on and we offered up all sorts of alternatives and all sorts of suggestions as far as changes to the language went, and the Senate Republicans didn't come back with compromised language, they came back with fines. They fined us $100 a day. They took away our parking spots. They held our paychecks, which I call extortion, but apparently they didn't think so. They messed around with our staff. They took away copying privileges for our staff. And they actually issued arrest warrants for us, when legally they can't do that. It's actually a felony to falsify arrest warrants if you're not a judge. Did you know that in Wisconsin? The majority leader didn't know that, apparently, so I guess they're going to be looking into that. This is all about busting public unions, but more importantly, if you take the collective bargaining argument one step further, there are people who have nothing to do with unions in Wisconsin who benefit from collective bargaining. They're called the middle class. This is an all-out assault on the middle class of the state of Wisconsin. That's all it is. I talked to some small business owners. Thank you. I talked to some small business owners who tend to lean Republican. And believe me, I'm a Democrat. I'm a partisan guy, but I'm very much okay, this is the issue. Let's sit down and work this out together. And normally we can come to a conclusion on things. Not this one. Our governor has forced us into picking a side. There is no gray area in this issue in Wisconsin. None. You stand with the governor or you don't. It's as simple as that. So all across Wisconsin right now, as I speak, people are picking sides. Thousands of people are showing up at rallies. I heard a number of 2,000, but then I heard 5,000 people picket the governor in Green Bay the other day. In Bayfield, Wisconsin, which is way up north on Lake Michigan, beautiful part of the state, they had more people show up and protest the governor's visit than people who actually live in Bayfield. And these aren't my favorite out-of-state union thugs. These are moms and dads, their kids, grandparents, aunts, uncles, people who are publicly employed, people who are not. This is very much Wisconsin who's showing up to do this. So when I say it's an attack on the middle class, it is. When I talk to the small business owners who tend to lean Republican and voted for Governor Walker, I said, take a look at your bottom line. The second the public employees conceded to the financial concessions in Dane County alone, that instantly removed $260 million out of the economy. In cash, gone. That's a lot of spendable income that we spend on our fish fries, in the taverns, when we play cards on Sunday afternoons, in the restaurants, in the Main Street, mom and pop shops, hardware stores, everything. That's a lot of spendable income. It's over $1 billion in the entire state. Gone. I guarantee you, if any industry in the state of Wisconsin said, look, we're going to leave and we're going to take $260 billion out of Dane County's economy, the Republicans would be tripping over themselves to pass every single tax break they could think of to keep them there. I'm telling you all of that to tell you this. In Wisconsin especially, we have a deficit. In every other state, there is a deficit, but it is not your fault. You have nothing to do with the deficits that states are running all over the place. It's a federal issue that's trickled down, hasn't trickled down, it has flooded down to the states. And we haven't been responsible in dealing with it. So campaign after campaign this past November, we saw every single Republican who run against public employees. There's no shame in being a teacher. There isn't. There's no shame in being a prison guard. There's no shame in public service. Wisconsin is built on public service. It's a strong tradition for two reasons. Number one, it's cheaper, and number two, there's more accountability. What's going to happen in Wisconsin? We've had prison industries register in January. These companies, big companies who come in and run prisons, they all have lobbyists now. It's going to cost more to contract out, and we all have less accountability. So, let me tell you about a couple of really brief discussions we had when we were all together in Illinois, which is northern Illinois, which is just beautiful this time of year. It is. Oh, the beaches are nice, and I know I look really tan. Northern Illinois. Yeah, the only satisfaction I had out of hanging out in Chicago was the NFC Championship game. Now, that being said, there are people here from Illinois, aren't there? Hopefully you have therapy involved in your benefits. Anyways, it's a lot of people think that the 14 of us sacrificed, and we did. I mean, we were away from I saw my kids twice over the course of the 3 weeks. They're 18 and 15, so they were fine that I was gone. In fact, I was actually happy the police were going by my house to see if I was there. I'm serious. Because I remember when I was 18 and I remember when I was 15. So I remember going, God, Mom and Dad are here. We talked about what it was like to be away. We talked about the fact that we firmly felt we were doing our jobs by standing up for not what we believed in as much as what the people of the state of Wisconsin believe in. And in the end, we didn't have that tough of a job. Yeah, you know, I was in 7 or 8 hotels because people are calling and looking for you, and that wasn't fun. You know, that was nothing compared to what people were dealing with back in Madison and around the rest of the state. People checked out of their lives to protest. People left their families to go to Madison, to go to Green Bay, to go to Eau Claire, to go to La Crosse. Those are the people who really deserve the credit for all of this stuff. Now, I'm looking at it this way. In conclusion, we lost the battle. There's no doubt about that. In conclusion, a lot of good, dedicated men and women in the state of Wisconsin are going to lose their jobs. Not because local units of government want to, they just don't have a choice. But we didn't lose the war. What happened in the last election cycle is a lot of us, and a lot of you who participate on the Democrat side, we kind of sleptwalked through the campaigns. We did. We didn't show up like we did 2 years previous in great numbers. But what Scott Walker did was take a piece of legislation, and he didn't poke a sleeping dog, he slapped it across the face. And I can't begin to tell you what's going on in Wisconsin right now. We're going to have 8 recalls of 8 Republican state senators. We are. And what will happen when we gather up all the signatures, and in most cases, we're about halfway there, and we still have, what, 40, 45 days to gather up the rest? This is only 2 weeks into the recall process. We'll have elections, and the elections will be somewhere around June or July. And some Republican state senators are going to lose their seat over this, and they know it. But they did it anyways, and here's why they did it. It's not because they believe in the issue, because they don't. These are all pretty much pro-labor Senate Republicans. They didn't want a primary from somebody in the Tea Party. That's why they voted the way they voted. That's why, rather than have the Senate Democrats cower back to Wisconsin to give them the opportunity to vote, they pulled the guts of the bill out, went to the floor in a maneuver, and passed it. Just the Republican senators. The vote was 18-1. And I understand you heard from Dale Schultz a little bit earlier. Dale's a wonderful guy. Dale's a Republican. Dale is one of those guys who basically says, look, there are 2 sides to this issue. Let's sit down and talk about it. He offered up an amendment, and he was slapped around pretty good. So I really have a great deal of respect for Dale and what he's done, not only on this issue, but issues in the past. But it was the Senate Republicans only on the Senate floor when it passed. Only. We didn't go back to give them the opportunity. We knew there was going to be a vote. We wanted to vote on something differently, and it became quite clear that they didn't care about the money at all. So in the end, as I opened up, I want to thank the Wisconsin firefighters, the Professional Police Association. They were wonderful. They get it. They understand that they might be exempt now, but chances are they won't be tomorrow. And the governor knows that too. So if it hasn't come to your state, it's going to be coming to your state real soon. You need to stand proud. You need to stand strong. This isn't an attack on your guns. This isn't an attack on your beliefs on any other issue. This isn't a direct assault on your pocketbook for the jobs that you do, risking your lives day in and day out to save people like me. That's what we pay you for. The dedication that the men and women have as professional firefighters is not questioned by anybody. But it is appreciated right now, so you know, ladies and gentlemen, by one political party more than it is the other. And as long as I'm in the state Senate, the Wisconsin professional firefighters know that they have one of the strongest allies they could ever have. Some of the firefighters in Wisconsin thought Governor Walker was the way to go. Clearly, he's not. And there's a lot of Governor Walkers out there. There's probably one in your state right now. In the end, it's not your fault that we are in the shape we are in. And in the end, you need to stand as strong as you possibly can and defeat this, even if it takes state by state by state. Thank you very much for having me out today. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you. Hey, thanks, man.